6:02. If you want to begin the meeting.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:02. And we'll pass it over to Linda.
Okay, roll call looks like you're all present on the board. The order of business that we're going to have is doing the interviews for the candidates for the board. And we have 3 gentlemen that have applied.
Do we need to adopt the agenda first?
The only thing I have on this agenda for this meeting is the board vacancy. That's all I have for this, Leslie. If you think we need to adopt it, we can.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the full agenda that's supposed to
Yeah,
start
I
at
know.
6 o'clock. Yeah, okay, all right, well, whatever.
But this is the only order of business really that's going to happen at this meeting. You're not even going to vote at this meeting.
Okay,
Okay, if that's okay, then by acclamation, all we're going to do is interview the candidates right now. The first candidate, John, if you would bring on Stephen Workman.
All right. So I'm bringing Stephen Workman on over to our meeting here. And looks like he is joining at this time. Go ahead, Linda.
Hi, Stephen. This is your time to have your interview with the board. First, explain why you ran for this position, kind of why you've got about 10 minutes to do that, to address the board, and then they'll have any questions that they have for you.
Cool, thank you so much. As you guys know, I'm Steve. I've been in Sudden Valley for a couple of years now. Moved in over Thanksgiving about 3 years ago. And I just love being out here in Sudden Valley. I applied for this position because I really do love the community that we have out here, the people, and I actually have the time to spend for this term. I wanted a chance to help out our community for quite a while now. And with COVID, everything being online, I jumped at the chance. Sorry, a little nervous, as things go. I think my competition for this position is likely to be running again for the board in November, but I don't have any plans to do that. I travel a bit for work, and a board of director meeting schedule isn't something that's really conducive to my job because I can't actually commit to meeting as frequently as you guys do for an entire year term, especially with not being in town. With this appointment, though, being until November, that's something I absolutely can do, and I'm more than happy to fill this role if needed, or if selected, I guess would be the better way to put that. While watching board meetings and reading quite a bit on social media, it seems like there's a lot of distrust from the community towards the Homeowners Association and the board. There are obviously very, very complex issues at play, even things that our community doesn't even seem to be aware of. For example, as I'm sure many of you know, large changes like removing security from the bylaws takes a vote from all the different sections within Sudden Valley. And one gentleman or lady, I don't know who, owns one section themselves. So it gives them a lot of power in adjusting those types of votes. Another misconception that I've noticed that our community seems to not understand is that the board serves the community. We do, as a board, serve the community as a whole, but we're actually serving more the corporation, trying to make sure that things are staying solvent, making sure that the corporation is able to continue and move forward. Even if some of the decisions that need to come down may not be in line with our own personal goals, it's our job to try and make sure that, as again, the corporation continues. I personally have some concerns, with the budget right now. Looking at changing the collection rate, especially with the current climate we're in right now. I know that other things that people have been concerned about in the past is amenities. They want them to be fully self-serving. And also others are concerned about us losing amenities that we've had for many, many years in the past. But because of us being in the watershed and such, if we lose those amenities, we may never be able to get them back. So I want to help address some of these questions and concerns that owners have. I want to help by opening up communication more in manners that hopefully more community members are able to actually access, because not everyone has multiple hours to sit down and watch a board meeting to find out all the different topics that are coming up. I do want to help serve our community. Even though I don't feel that I can run for a board position in the future, I am planning on running for the NNE committee this November, so I can actually still help out, even if this interim position doesn't work out. Thank you guys for listening to me, and thanks for your time and consideration. That's what I got.
Okay, do any of you have any questions for Stephen? Paula?
Hi, Stephen. Number one, thank you for giving your time to this, and for being here today. I understand your nervousness and hope it works out over these next couple minutes. One thing that I thought was really interesting in your application was that you've gone through the Leadership Whatcom course that was presented by the Bellingham Chamber of Commerce. I think that's an excellent program, and so I was wondering, what types of skills do you feel that you learned through that you could bring to the board over the next few months?
Yeah, one of the biggest takeaways that I took from that was, as I mentioned in my brief introduction, realizing that, just because I would be on the board, my personal opinion and viewpoints on this isn't necessarily concrete. It's about what is best for the organization. Even though, if it looks like it's best based on the employees' analysis of our situation, that we need to, go with that, 95% collection rate as opposed to the 92 we've had in the past, then that's going to be the right direction. I'm going to have to trust upon the experts and then bring, my opinion in, and then work together collectively to try and come up with a solution in these types of situations.
That was a good answer. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Joshua?
Hey, Steve. For someone nervous, you're very well spoken and you sound very intelligent. So, I mean, this is a pretty simple question probably, but you expressed your love for the community. What do you like most about Sudden Valley, and what is one thing that you would like to change?
The thing that I really love the most about Sudden Valley is my neighbors. Like, the people that are here are some of the best people I've ever gotten to interact with. A lot of us are very, very passionate about where we think things should go and are going, and we don't always agree. And it's okay to not agree, but it's also about trying to keep things civil and trying to continue to work together, I guess, is what I want to do. And I lost the question as I was talking, and I'm sorry. Could you rephrase that, Josh? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you're doing fine. The first question, now I'm stumbling, I'm nervous. What do you love most about Sudden Valley? But what is one thing that you would, if you could change it, what would you change?
The one thing that I wanted to change for a while, which has actually been changing with some of the current board members that actually helped spearhead this, is I live at the top of Gate 3, and there's not really any parks around here that our kids can go to and play at. And the fact that Treehouse Park looks like it's being worked on and equipment is being built there, that's something that's really huge for this part of the community. Because, I mean, we can go down to Gate 9, but that's down a big old hill, and not a lot of us necessarily have multiple cars and would have to walk it. And that's not always the easiest to do with small kids. It's something we've done a couple times, but like having more amenities that are available to us would be nice, that are included with, what we pay for in our regular dues.
Thank you.
Leslie, go ahead.
Hi, Steve. I was looking over your application here, and you're talking about helping the community come together and move forward with a community-focused manner. Do you have any specific suggestions on how we can do this?
The one suggestion that I've kind of been mulling around in my mind, and I realize that it is a bit of a toxic environment, but we have a lot of different communities on Facebook, a lot of scattered communities on Facebook. And even just being able to get like meeting notes out in a different manner, because the website isn't always the easiest to navigate. Like, I've been watching the board meetings for months now, and I've never been able to figure out how to actually join the Zoom meeting so I can offer comments. So, having more communication available out there, maybe it's an official Facebook feed or a Twitter or something to actually try and facilitate more involvement from the community.
Yeah. So you would look forward to perhaps being on the communication committee if you were to join the board?
If that's where I would be best suited, absolutely.
Anyone else have any other further questions for Stephen? Rob, go ahead.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for joining us this evening. My question is kind of around conflict. Often organizations and teams can experience conflict. Can you tell me about a time where maybe you had experienced conflict within an organization or a team, and maybe a little bit about what that issue was and how did you resolve it?
Yeah, I mean, I deal with conflict basically on a daily basis. I work in customer service, and so I have customers regularly emailing and calling, and I have to, address their concern head on, find out where they're at, meet them where they're at, and then try and actually work towards a goal together. I realize that's the very generalized terms. The most specific situation recently, there was a conflict where one of my colleagues was frustrated by the fact that I was stepping into a leadership role when our supervisor was out of the office. They didn't appreciate me doing that and felt that it was me trying to do a power grab. The reality was the supervisor had multiple times in the past asked me to step in because I've got the most seniority and I know how to deal with these situations. They were quite combative towards this, basically undermining every single thing that I said whenever possible. So I then went to them individually and said, hey, is there something I don't understand that's happening here? I'm supposed to be in charge when our boss is out. And every time I do, you seemingly intentionally are undermining my position. Is there something that I've done that has caused this conflict? And they're like, no, I just think it's not right that you do that. I'm like, all right, well, let's stick together when the boss is in together and we'll sit down and talk this through. And so we came together, all three of us, talked the situation through, and they realized that, I was doing exactly what was asked of me, and it wasn't me just like, ooh, I need all the power possible, because that's not what I want. That's not who I am. And it met with a positive solution in the situation.
Thanks for sharing that, Steve. That's a great experience. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, unmute myself. First of all, thanks again for being willing to take your time this evening and being willing to volunteer. You, for only living here a couple of years, you seem fairly knowledgeable about the community. And I was just going to ask, I know you said you've been watching board meetings, but what have you done to learn more about the community?
So when I first moved into the Valley, I was trying to find Facebooks that I could actually get into and find out more information with. And the only Facebook page that actually admitted me originally was Sudden Valley Raw. And as everyone is probably familiar with Raw is a very potentially divisive community. So I had the advantage of being able to sit here and try and look at multiple sides of the topics that are brought up. And then when I would hear about, different things, and I unfortunately, I don't remember the term for like the plots that are within Sudden Valley that need to vote for things. But I've gone back through and I've researched through like old views, and I've dug into watching old board meetings and reading through meeting notes and such. I mean, the information's there, it's just hard to acquire. And then, I think I'm currently I feel like I'm in most of the Sudden Valley groups right now, listening and watching and interacting and trying to help out when and where I can. But it's just, trying to get as many feelers out there and listen.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? Andrew, go ahead.
Thanks, Linda. And Steve, thanks for being here and putting your application in. I certainly appreciate it. My question was really answered earlier when you had highlighted all the different social media channels. And I think you had mentioned it'd be great to have maybe a Sudden Valley, official Sudden Valley page, more of a central, where to get information. And I think that's a great idea. So, and like I said, my question was just on the communications. You had mentioned you had some ideas for different ways to communicate with the members. So if you want to elaborate on that, go ahead. But I think you've already done that. So if there's anything more to add, that was my question. Again, thanks for your time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know like too much more that I could add along those lines. I mean, the other thing we definitely don't want to do is like get into all the different feelers that are out there, because if we're trying to manage Nextdoor and Twitter and Facebook and Reddit and 500 million things, it all gets watered down, and there's not a good way to actually communicate with everybody. But I feel that if we were, even to pick a Facebook group and say, this is the official group, I'm not proposing we pick any of the current groups because there's a lot of different focuses of the groups that are out there. But if we were to pick a group and say, hey, this is the official one, we're going to do all communications through here. And, whenever we go live streaming on Facebook, on YouTube, we would also live stream on Facebook at the same time and being able to maybe get more interaction that way. I'm not sure if the bylaws would actually allow owners to comment via Facebook message, but that would be another way of helping to reduce the barrier of actually needing to physically be there in the building to actually do these meetings.
Thank you.
Does anybody else? I think, AJ, you're about the only person I think that hasn't asked a question. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'll ask a question. I think, I guess I would like to know what your stance is on, you said you've been following for a few years now, what your stance is on the WICOA law that passed a couple years ago.
I realize that this is also a divisive thing among the board, it feels, from watching some of the meetings in the past. I don't understand how WICOA passed, especially when it invalidates contracts that already existed in our state. It's something that I don't understand why the community hasn't tried to get this overturned. Because, I mean, it does seem like when I've read through the law, and I'm no attorney, but when I've read through the law, it seemed like it only affected new HOAs as opposed to affecting existing HOAs. But, I mean, our attorney, as of the, Sudden Valley's attorney obviously would read through that and know quite a bit more about it than me.
Thank you.
I've got one question for you, Stephen, before we return you and bring in the next candidate, because it looks like everyone else is done with their questions. Did I understand you to say that you were going to apply for N&E this fall?
That's my plan. I haven't put in my application yet because it depends on describing myself in 100 words and what I'm trying to do. Some of those words are going to be like, I'm a current board member looking to be on the N&E, or something along those lines. I wanted to get my wording right before I applied that, and I understand
That's
I've got
fine.
like another 10 days or so before I can get that.
That's cool. Just wondered if I heard you correctly. I was quite excited to see that. Thank you. I'm going to ask John to return you to the waiting room and ask John to bring in our next candidate, William Scott Walsh.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
Stephen.
Stephen.
All right. I am bringing William over. I believe he's got his name set as Barbara. So I'm going to go ahead and rename you here real quick.
Yeah, I'm using my wife's computer.
No problem. So am I. Let's see. There we go. All right. We got you all set. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay. Am I muted? No, I'm not. Whoa, not all of us are here. William, are you in the room? Oh, you are in the room with us. William, if you just begin by letting the board know why you applied for the position, why you think, how you feel you can serve to fill this vacancy, and just give them a little introduction to yourself, and then we'll open it up for board questions.
Okay, be happy to. Hi, everyone. I'm William Scott Walsh, but I go by Scott. So we moved to Sudden Valley in 2018 when we bought our forever home. Been married happily 35 years, have 2 adult children, 1 still living at home and going to school. I am a retired fire captain, spent 32 years in community safety, public safety, and I have a degree in administration of justice and a degree in fire science. I'm a National Fire Academy graduate, which is located in Emmitsburg, Maryland, and I also attended the FBI Academy for Special Weapons and Tactics School, emergency management type classes. Since arriving in Sudden Valley, I volunteered on the Emergency Preparedness Committee. In June of this year, I was elected the chair when Mike left. I served on the 2019 Long Range Planning Committee I chaired the subcommittee on community safety, which was then rolled over into the EPC in 2020, and we continue to do our work in that committee. I've volunteered in the community with the food pantry on occasion, and more than once I've gone to town to pick things up for people or taken things to town for people that couldn't get out. I served on the committee that put together this 2020 graduation parade that recognized our Sudden Valley students. We went all through the valley and went to almost each and every home and delivered a little goodie bag for them. What I bring to the board? Well, extensive experience in the community safety arena. I really believe that Sudden Valley needs some help in this area. And I believe that I have the experience to bring some planning and programming to bear. What you'll get as a full-time board member. I am retired and can get out and about in the daytime, look at things, ask questions, get input, and be prepared when the time comes that we have to be making a decision. I have an ability and desire to form partnerships. I believe that Sudden Valley needs to build partnerships with surrounding communities and with surrounding agencies within Whatcom County. And I think I'm good at doing that. I have no problem asking the hard questions. I want to get results. I believe there's a lot here that we need to fix. I'm owned by no one. I want to make that very clear. And I will vote what I think is right for the community. Let's see here. One thing that I'm very interested in doing is bringing some community events, possibly to Sudden Valley, that might raise us some revenue, such things as maybe a Celtic fair or a Scottish Games, or maybe a triathlon. We have a lake, we have mountains and roadways, and I don't know the hurdles that it might take to get through something like that, but I'm willing to look into it to see if we can do something here in the valley to raise some money. Lastly, I want to say that no matter who you decide on joining your board, I'm going to continue to serve because that's what I've done my entire life. And I will do the best of my ability to do that. I think I bring a fresh set of eyes and some ears to the table that might be of help. So that's where I'll stop for now.
Okay, I'll open the floor up to board members. Joshua, looks like you're first.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hey, as soon as this COVID's over, I'll totally take you up on that Celtic fair and throw axes with you.
Oh, yeah.
So this is probably a weird question, but, you know, with your, you have a heart for safety, and, you know, we only have a few ways in and out of this place. We get some capital requests and some prioritization on projects that are just really, really expensive. How do you, in your mind, where do you see the prioritization happening with some of our playtime requests versus our safety?
Well, I think safety is a need and not a want, and I am for needs. One of the things we need is and you and I have talked about this, is a communication system within Sudden Valley that we can reach everybody and give them the information we need to give them and directions. You know, our roads are substandard. Signage is something we need desperately as far as evacuation goes. As far as funding these kind of things, that's where the partnerships need to come in. I do believe we need to partner with Whatcom County and whoever else we can find, surrounding agencies, surrounding neighborhoods, and maybe put a South Whatcom County plan together as far as evacuation and some of the other needs that we have. Our money is limited in scope. You can only go to the well so much, and you know, we have to look outside the box. I don't know if that answered your question, Joe.
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Oh, it's a tie between Leslie and AJ. Ladies first. Go ahead, Leslie.
Thank you. Good evening, Scott.
Hi.
You're talking about, you know, relationships outside of Sudden Valley, and you do mention specifically city and county, et cetera, that we usually do. But with your background knowledge on safety and partnerships, et cetera, do you think that there is any possibility to get grants from the state to help us out with our safety concerns?
I'm unsure of that right now. What I do think is if we were to join with the county Department of Emergency Management, like other cities and agencies belong to, that might go a long way in helping us piggyback on getting resources here in the valley that that would cost less because volume is bought. Something that our committee has been looking at, and we continue to look at. So I would hope that, for example, I was part of a consolidated fire department. That consolidated fire department, instead of having two management teams, you had one management team. Instead of buying different kinds of fire engines, you bought one kind, and you bought in bulk. I think we can do those kinds of things.
Thank you.
Okay, AJ, if you're ready to ask Scott some questions.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I would like to know, you know, you've been around for a few years now and you've been involved, and I guess I'd like to know what your stance is on the WICOA law.
I don't like it. I haven't liked it. I'm painted I'm painted as a person that's supposed to support it. I don't like it. And not only that, I didn't like budget increases. In fact, I went down there and told them I didn't think they should raise the dues. And I told them that they really ought to explain what they did with the money when they raised it from 87 to 127, or somewhere in the 120 mark. So, Wakoya, I'm not, I don't like it. I haven't. And I don't care what people say. I don't think it was the way to go. I think in some ways it was a failure at communication. I've only been here 2 years, so maybe I'm talking out my kazoo, but I don't like it. I think it's caused a lot of grief here in the valley.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions? Or AJ, do you have anything else first? No? Okay, Karen, it looked like you had your hand up.
I did. Yeah, thanks, Scott, for being here tonight and for being willing to volunteer your time and the time that you've already volunteered. And I was just going to ask you, after serving on EPC and long-range planning, what's something that you have learned from your time serving on committees in the past?
Well, the way I operate is, if, you know, the committee we're a team. I'll give you an example of recent, and you'll see it come out in the Sudden Valley Views here. Part of our team, EPC, is a public education what I call Public Education Task Force. And I look at the people and see what strengths and weaknesses they have. I go and I ask them if they'd be willing to serve. If they do, I explain sort of like what's in my mind, get their input, ask them if they want to do it. If they say yes, then I turn them loose and let them do it. Bring it back, and you know, we get approval from the committee. I'm collaborative. I like to work. But if something needs to be done, rarely in a committee setting now, but when you're out on a fire ground or when you're out, you know, sometimes you just got to say, this has got to be done. And I'm not afraid to do that. Did that answer your question, Karen?
You did. Thank you.
I think the next person with a question is Paula.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Paul.
Hi, Scott, and thanks for being here. And also thank you for your service for the last 30 some years.
Thank you.
I agree with you about safety. I think that's one of the things that we regularly hear people talk about is safety in our community. And I know that's something that I've been concerned about myself. So I want to touch on that in kind of two different areas. I'll let you choose which one you want to answer first. One, on one of your comments for things that you wanted to accomplish, you brought up bring suggestions and proposals for board decision on forest management. So I was hoping you could kind of talk about how forest management, in your experience, what we're doing, kind of where we need to go, what in short. I think that could probably take hours overall, but just a summary of some of your ideas on that. And I think one of the places we come up into issues with that is in budgets. And you referenced that you have experience in management of budgets, and I assume under probably some tight budgeting situations given your employment past. So could you talk about how you might incorporate that into our budget, or what some of those ideas might be?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember, because I'm kind of old, completed staff work. You ever heard that term? Basically, what it is I was trained to, if I wanted a new toy of some kind, we want a new fire engine. You had to justify it up and down and all around. You had to anticipate the questions that would be asked, and you had to have, or should be prepared to have those answers. And last night I watched, or not last night, this morning I watched the finance committee, and they didn't have all the answers to something that they were on a proposal, and they turned it back. And that's what I would do. I would, if I don't have all the questions answered, then, you know, what's the hurry? As far as forest management, never saw it. Never saw any. I saw it burning, and I saw the after effect. I will tell you that I reached out to a community member and asked him to join our EPC committee. He was on our LRPC subcommittee, who has a passion and local passion in our forestry management here. And our committee is going to have him work with our wildland guy, Tom Fields, who's putting together a plan now for wildland. And they're going to combo and see what we can do as far as forest management goes. In Finland, they have bulldozers that go into their forests and with rakes. And I know that's a big joke, but they go and they rake out some of that stuff. I think we have the ability to partner with Conservation Corps and Firewise to, we've done some of that, but I think we need to continue and enlarge that. Again, money goes only so far. We don't have a lot of it. We need those partners.
Great, thank you, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody else have questions? I think Rob, go ahead, Rob.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for joining us this evening. And I also really appreciate your passion for safety very much. So Scott, often in organizations and teams can experience conflict. Could you tell us about a time where maybe you had experienced conflict in an organization or on a team? What was the situation? What part did you take in resolving it, and what was the outcome?
Well, I was president of my firefighters union. And so I would have to go and meet with the chief. And there would be times when things, weren't being, very nice. And you have to take a step back and look at all sides. And you have to meet halfway in the middle. And it's tough. It really is tough. But you got to be willing to find common ground and work that. I had so many over the years. I really don't want to give you an individual case, but yeah, they're it's a dance.
Thank you.
Andrew, do you have any questions for him? We're kind of getting on to time here. I'd like to give our last candidate time, but if you have questions for Scott, go ahead and ask if you would, please.
Thanks, Linda. No, I think we did a healthy review of your application, and you've done a great job in your presentation, Scott. You've answered everything that I would have asked anyway, and just want to thank you for your application to the board. And I can see and tell your passion behind the safety for the community, and I respect that a lot. Thank you.
AJ, do you have another question for him real quick?
Yeah, I had one more question. You've talked a lot about partnerships and collaborating and stuff like that. Yet on Facebook, you called the entire board a bunch of babies. And so I'm kind of curious as to how you're going to make statements like that and then try to come and partner with us. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, well, I can understand that and respect it, but I don't think that you've done, as a board, the association's business in a professional manner. I truly don't. And I don't think the babies was in a sandbox. They haven't learned to share or work together in a sandbox. And I'm hoping that we can get more professional. I understand governance. I understand, maybe not as well as you, because I haven't had any formal training in Robert's rules, but I know what governance is. They set direction and policy and tell the general manager, this is it, go do it. He goes and does it. You reevaluate it or evaluate it, and then do whatever you're going to do. Social media, I got sucked in. Things are being said that I didn't say, and I don't think social media has really been that helpful here in the Valley. I'm not owned by anybody, AJ. I know you.
I didn't say you were owned by.
No, I know, but
not like someone said that to you, like on this board, but no one here said that to you.
Yeah, I asked a simple question yesterday, and I asked a simple question, and boy, it just took off like
It's called snowball.
Yeah. So each and every one of you will know where I come from. Ask me the hard questions. I'm not going to, I'll give you an answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott. John, would you be nice enough to put Scott back in the waiting room and bring Brian into the meeting, please?
Sure thing. Thank you, Scott. I'm going to go ahead and put you back in the waiting room here, and we'll bring Brian on over. Okay, he is being admitted now. And it looks like we've got Brian connecting. We'll just give his
Hello, Brian.
here to catch up. Looks like we're getting there.
There's Brian.
Hey, Brian.
So take yourself off mute and take a few minutes to introduce yourself to the board, and then we'll open it up
Great.
for them to ask you some questions.
All right. All right. How's everybody doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Great. Fantastic. All right. Yeah, so I have stepped forward for this position because the talented and vibrant community members here in Sudden Valley inspire me. Coupled with our stunning natural setting of these Cascade foothills, I feel as if I want to help this community flourish in any way that I can. This is home. I'm also qualified to sit on this board because of my experience working and sitting on boards of various community and environmental groups, my ability to write successful grant applications and perform thorough research, and my ability to accomplish difficult endeavors such as getting a PhD while working full-time and supporting a family. Moreover, one of my best attributes as an educator is my ability to connect with and respect all of my students. This is a practice that I carry outside of the classroom, as I am very adept at finding common ground among people with vastly different ideological visions. A couple of months ago, when I applied for the board vacancy, I was asked about my participation in the recall. In response, I think I made it clear that my involvement wasn't a personal issue, but an ideological one. Even if I don't agree with your decisions, this would not preclude me from working constructively with you on the board. Last, I am proud of the work that I have put forth in this community, including being involved with the effort for the bylaw change, as well as my recent SVCA work as a member of the Long Range Planning Committee. I hope that you will allow me to put my experience to work for the SVCA board, even if it's for a short period of time. Shortly after Wakaiowa was passed, I was engaged in a heated discussion with one of the few in this community who is a proponent of this poorly written law that has contributed to so much hardship and disunity. He asked, what was my vision for the community? Well, for this gentleman, and your board members, and for the rest of the community, here's a current incarnation of this vision as it pertains to Sudden Valley HOA Board of Directors. My vision, which resembles the vision of those tremendous others whom I will campaign with on the forward slate in the coming election, involves a relationship between unity, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. What do I mean by calling for a vision of unity? There are two of many ways we can achieve unity. One way that a board can help engender a unified community involves having an empathy toward its members in the form of acknowledging their burden and paying their dues. In my post-Wakaiowa attendance of nearly every board meeting, one thing I have noticed, except in a couple of scripted occasions, was a distinct lack of this empathy toward community members who saw their monthly dues double since 2017. Rather than the board expressing gratitude toward the membership, the community concerns were repeatedly dismissed. It's absolutely vital to listen to homeowners who, in most cases, have the majority of their wealth tied up in their homes. In a unified community, members will be appreciated and budget documents clearly explained from the outset, and all efforts will be undertaken to keep dues and special assessments as low as possible. My dog Walden agrees with me. Unity will also be achieved by getting projects done in which the community has complained about for years, fixing all the potholes, not just the major ones, trimming back the stinging nettle from the roadway so that someone walking with a child doesn't have to worry about their child's hands, timely removal of cut trees and other fire hazards dumped into the forest after a building project, to name a few. I would look forward to working with you all on these and other ways to achieve unity. Now, transparency can promote trust, which has been lacking in this community. Transparency can be achieved by a board that is forthright with its neighbors, has a clear plan that includes the best interests of all in the community, and makes the membership aware of the nature of its plans. Transparency can be cultivated by a board that responds to community members' requests with facts and who gives specific examples rather than sweeping generalizations, or simply making up a response when they don't know the answer. Fiscal responsibility means first account for all the above discussed, including being clear about the cost for specific projects. Another example of fiscal responsibility involves keeping the dues as low as possible while maintaining an inclusive and all-encompassing vision of this community. If we can restore trust in our community being the relationship between unity, transparency, and fiscal responsibility, we will move into an era of healing wherein all of the community can share in a vibrant and unifying community vision, which will have a dual benefit of a pervasive sense of pride in our community, as well as heightened home values. I hope to have the opportunity to work with y'all on these issues. Thanks.
Okay, do any of you board members have questions for Brian? I see Joshua's got his hand up.
Oh,
Hey, Brian.
hi, Josh.
That was very poetic.
Thank you.
So you talked about empathy. I think that's a really good thing to discuss. What would be a step towards the board, if lacking empathy, towards having better empathy with the community?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, listening to the homeowners' concerns, right? And in the past, we had situations where we had a board member, nobody's sitting on the board at present, where we had a board member who didn't even look at the community members, who were discussing and detailing hardship after hardship, and there was this real effort that it appeared that the community assets were a lot more important than the community members, and I'd like to see that change. Also, of course, I would like community members to vote forward in November. I think that would be a big step because the four of us on that slate are all very empathetic. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Leslie.
Yeah. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Leslie.
I've looked over your application with great interest, and you are very expressive, and your vocabulary is healthy. In one sentence, you state that Sudden Valley is a heterogeneous community that needs to work together with a leadership that is proportional to relevant community interests. And I wonder if you could explain to me, what are the relevant community interests that you're talking about? And are there irrelevant interests that you would dismiss?
Well, that's a good question. I think some relevant community interests would be keeping the dues low, as witnessed by the bylaw amendment, wherein a good 75–80% of the community voted to limit dues and special assessments each year, the percentage of which. I would say that it appears, I have a felt sense that that roads are very, very important to the membership. However, I would say I'm going to defer this conversation for later, because I did work. I'm very proud of some work that that was headed up by the director Tischler on a community survey, and I think that's something that really, really needs to be done. But that's I'll defer that conversation. Thanks.
Anyone else have any?
Me.
Go ahead, Karen.
Steffi has her little
Oh,
virtual
Steffi,
hand raised.
go ahead, Steffi. I'm sorry. You're just a little black box to me. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Where's
That's okay.
Steffi? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you touched on that, Brian, what I was going to ask. But first, I wanted to say thank you for all your work on the committee, Long Range Planning Committee. I was going to bring up all the hard work you did there. And it's no secret that I do know you from working on the petition to limit dues. So I don't really have many questions. I was just going to expand on how you would go about getting that information from the community.
Okay. You mean the survey information or the? I'm sorry. Is that what you're asking, Steffi?
She's on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great question. Thank you, Steffi. I appreciate that, and I do. Yeah, I'm proud to know you for sure. You're a wonderful board member. But I think that would love to serve with you for sure, and that's why I'm here, right? Yeah, again, I'm going to defer that conversation till later. AJ's the leader of the group, and yeah. And so,
Karen, I thought you had your hand up when before Steffi, right?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
after, I think. Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining us tonight and for.
hi, Karen.
And I see the bike in the back, and I'm going to again invite you
Yes.
to trails. I think mountain biking.
I'm still interested in trails as well. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Trails and mountain biking. We actually have a pretty good trails group. But anyway, I was going to ask about your committee experience. You've had some experience serving on committees here, and I was just going to ask you what are some things or one thing that you have learned from your service on long range planning? It's a pretty open-ended question, but.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Thank you. It's been really interesting talking to the folks that have been on long range planning for a period of time. And I think really mostly what I've learned is that we really kind of need to establish a really, really thorough and specific long range plan. And I think the folks that had been on there for a number of years have talked about what had, kind of thwarted or slowed down their efforts. So they've been really helpful in that sense. But AJ's done a really great job focusing on that. So I just really feel like we need a specific, a really good specific plan that is fueled by a survey.
Paula, I believe you had your hand up.
I did, thank you. And Brian, thank you for your service and all the work that you've been doing on that long range planning and for everything
Thank you,
else that you've
Paula.
been doing. It's really appreciated. Anytime we get volunteers that as passionate as you are, it's always helpful no matter where we end up on the spectrum. So I appreciate that. Thank you for coming back again. There were 2 points that I wanted to just maybe dig a little deeper into. You had touched in your experience, education, and training portion of some grant experience.
Yes.
It looks like specifically in environmental areas. And so I was hoping that you could maybe give us maybe a little bit more information on that. And then part 2, I'll let you choose how you want to go with both of these. You had also talked about looking at earning more money from our assets. And I know that that's been a conversation for years, especially with how many members we have coming into the community. And so I was hoping that you could maybe give us some ideas that you might have. Personally, I know there's the survey coming up, but I was hoping I might get some of your ideas on how to capitalize on some income opportunities specifically in that area, since it's been a hot topic recently.
Well, thanks, Paula. The first one, yeah, I'm happy to note that we just received a $7,500 grant that I was a part of, worked on this summer for a community garden at Whatcom Community College. Super happy about that. That was a Whatcom Foundation grant. That's going to be a lot of fun, and I play the role of I'm in the Sustainability Committee #1, and I'm also I'm a co-advisor for the Sustainability Club. Number 2, I helped write a grant a while back to start a program in sustainability at Indiana University of Pennsylvania as well. I just lost you guys. I don't know if hopefully I'm still viable here. Okay. Yeah, so those 2 things, and I've written grants. I've helped on grants there was one project, it was a long time ago. It was for the Evergreen Conservancy. And we got a grant to help a farmer divert the cows were defecating near a stream, which was going into the watershed. And so we helped remediate that. So we wrote a grant for that. I worked with a biologist and a couple other folks there. So I enjoy grant writing. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too. Yeah, satisfying in that sense. Yeah, as far as the community, it seems like every time I think of something, there are like 5 different problems with it, So I'm not sure what to speculate about that right now, because it just seems like there's, maybe there are, what do we have? We have some property out there. We have a golf course, right? The Frisbee golf course that I mean, you know, somehow I'm not sure if that's a possibility. We've got mountain biking trails nearby, but I know that's a big community conversation, right? I don't want to step on the community's toes by saying, oh yeah, I'm all for trails, and because I know that's a conversation, and it's a complex conversation to have, you know, because once you start talking about trails, then people are like, but what about a trail next to my house or something like that? And you know, and I'm just thinking in terms of future perhaps parking for mountain bikers or something like that. But I think that's a long range type of thing. Kayak expansion. I think we could use a lot more. I mean, it seems like we have a lot of room for kayak racks, right? And that's you know, I have a kayak rack and I really enjoy it. It's the $100 a shot, right? So that would help. I don't think it's going to be a big money maker or anything like that, but you know, so just all of that, and then of course I think there's a lot of discussion right now about how to make golf profitable. You know, those types of issues. So, thanks, Paula. That's a good question.
Thanks. I also want to say, share your, I appreciate your passion in sustainability. It's an area I've worked in my whole adult life. So I always like to hear more sustainability fans and people that are passionate about that. So I appreciate that. Thank you for bringing that into the Valley.
Thank you, Paula. I appreciate your work on it as well.
Okay, folks, we've got about, according to my trusty time on my computer, about 2 minutes left in the session here until we really should close for our interviews. Does anybody have anything that Brian could answer quickly that's a real question that you'd like to have him answer, that any of you that haven't taken part yet? I don't see anybody. So John, if you would be kind enough to put Brian back in the waiting room, we'll.
I just want to thank. Oh, I'm sorry,
No,
Linda. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Brian. I'll go ahead and bring you back to the waiting room here.
Okay, folks, I have 6:59 on my trusty little timer here that I use. That's nothing more than my computer time. So we're done with our interviews. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn and go to our next meeting for a while.
I move we adjourn and go to our next meeting.
Is voting not done here? I'm terrible.
Quick question.
No, voting has to be done in open session, John.
Okay,
One of the first items once we get into the regular meeting.
the agenda packet says differently, just FYI.
Oh, it's illegal to vote in closed session.
We can move to open session. I don't think it's going to overly complicate things. We'll be fine.
Pardon?
Okay, I'm going there because it's going to take me a minute.
Okay.
So we're all going to agree to meet on the other side then?
Mm-hmm.
All righty, see you all there. Bye.
We're adjourned at 7. Thanks, everyone.